Earlier in the conversation, you spoke about your spiritual journey. You spoke about evolutionary leadership, the
Yes.
workshop that you came to, and what that set off. And I would love for the people that are listening that don't know enough about that experience. Tell me tell me why that's meaningful, and just a little bit about what has happened in this journey that you're in since that moment.
So, I'd be remiss to not actually give a little back, story as to who I internalized my survivor story. I thought that I wasn't good enough. I thought I never paid attention to health. I had to disconnect from my body at a very young age in order to be able to cope and show up in this world. And so I overcompensated by being really smart, really funny, and really cool. And so
You're cool, definitely cool.
and funny. And so like I was always play Monopoly, I'll kick your ass. Like I was very competitive at anything that didn't have to do with anything physical. When I got to evolutionary leadership the very first time in June 2017, I showed up diseased. I had ulcers on my legs. I had an autoimmune disorder that was totally, there was nothing. I have been almost near the end of my life because of the autoimmune disorder, being hospitalized for weeks at a time, not knowing if my daughter would have a mother, if I'd be there when she turned 10, and just like really like, she'd come visit me at the hospital and watching her say goodbye to me when she was 4 and she had tears in her eyes. And it was one of the darkest times of my life. It was very sad. When I showed up to evolutionary leadership, it was almost like I brought all my baggage and it was just like, and I just dumped it. And I was seen. And I wasn't seen as a handicapped woman. I wasn't seen as a diseased woman. I wasn't seen as a survivor, as a fat lady in the room. It was almost like I was seen. And some of the emphasis of evolutionary leadership is creating a we space where we share the burden, where we share the happiness and the joy and the peace, and what does it mean to exist here in the place outside of you that tends to limit us, right? And so what does it mean to be here? And so it was almost like all that I was carrying for so long, I could not be like, all right, let's distribute this evenly between all of us, right? And so some of the intentional work and the practices that we did of mutual awakening, I would sit down with someone and we're asking each other how we feel. And in the beginning of it, I'd be like, oh, I got a pain here and I got a pain there. And by the end of it, it was almost like, well, the pain feels less. And I knew that that person walked away with a little bit extra. They carried that for me. I'll leave that there because I don't know what direction you want to go with that, but we could go anywhere.
No, I'm feeling it deeply. I'm actually feeling goosebumps right now with the power of your transmission here. I find so powerful, Damali, that you are on the front line. So at least in the political front, right? Like you're literally under attack by the old guard, right? Violently so, right? And you just mentioned that you are a survivor, right? And so, of all people, you seem to have enough ground to just be angry, right? To just be angry. And you are choosing otherwise. And do you think that's just kind of a personal disposition that you have? Or is that a spiritual choice that you're making?
It's both.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've been angry.
Yeah.
I've done the anger thing.
Right.
Didn't really work out for me.
Right.
I made myself very sick.
Right.
And it's also given me the foundation for the spirit work that I'm doing. Again, I am a survivor and I have dealt with my share of traumas, as so many of us have. And I internalized it for a long time and I made myself extremely sick. The way that I treated people, the way I treated myself, the way I showed up, the things I did to myself, the things I did to others, the way that I lived, the way that I ate, so many different ways that I showed up in ways that were less than a reflection of who I am now, right? And so that didn't work. It was not sustainable. So I started to heal. I started to do better. I always knew that there was something more. There was, I almost like, I've always held space for other people. Like regardless of how broken or cracked I may have been, people have always come to me. I've always been a leader and I've always helped people. But I almost felt like there was only so far I could get because I wasn't where I needed to be. And so the deeper I went in and the more work that I did for me, the more capacity I was building to not just grow for myself, but to hold space for people differently. So now it's not so much that I'm holding space for people as much as that I'm holding hands and we're lifting each other along the way.
That's beautiful. I want to keep going, and there's a commitment I've made to myself, right? You've spoke about survivorship multiple times, and there's I feel compelled when a woman tells me about that to say I'm sorry, right? Because I'm a man, because I'm a participant in this patriarchy, because of the harms that I have caused. And so I just wanted to take a moment, since it came up multiple times, and just say, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that that happened to you, and I'm taking responsibility for my role in it.
Thank you, but I also want to acknowledge that you've also played a pivotal role in healing it. So thank you.
Thank you, sister. It's really powerful to hear about your experience there, and I know that something got lit. When you already came with a fire, right? But something got I don't know, fanned, if you will. And the other things have happened since, right? And so, tell us what happened after. Like, what could you point to on this amazing journey of awakening?
Just the way that the mind, the ego, shows up and limits us. I remember going to a circle that you were hosting, and I didn't know what the seating arrangements would be like. And as a large woman, I know that, I can't sit in regular chairs. If the arms are too narrow, I don't fit. And so in my mind, because society is not set up in a way where we cater to people of larger sizes or of different needs, I brought a huge camping chair to the circle. I don't know if you remember.
Yes,
I brought
do.
this huge camping chair because I knew people would be sitting on the ground. And I had conditioned myself to believe that I couldn't sit on the ground because it was too big. And so I came in the chair and I sat there, and everybody's on the ground, and it's almost like I removed myself from the group because of my special needs or whatever. But the fact is that I can get on the floor. It might be a little harder to get up, but I can go on the floor. And so even just that story I tell all the time because it was the beginning of something. It was I can't wear leggings because I said to my my daughter that I took in, I said, I can't wear leggings. I don't have the legs for leggings. She said, what do you mean you don't have the legs? All you need is legs for leggings, But it's just the way that we show up, the way that I was interacting with my husband, even like with my life partner. It was almost like, you internalize these traumas, you have these things, you don't know how to show up for people, and you just project onto each other and you tear each other down. And I started to look at all my relationships differently and started realizing, holy moly, like this entire life of mine is because I subscribe to what society told me how I'm supposed to show up in this world. If you're a mother, oh my God, there's no room for mess ups. You have to attend every soccer game. You have to take it to every practice. Like you can't have bad days. As a wife, you have to cook and you have to clean, which by the way, I'm horrible at both. And women tend to think that these roles that society tells us we're supposed to play are what defines us. So we're expected, women, especially women of color, to carry the traumas and the burdens of our communities. And we hold so much constantly. But there's never a development of self. There's never an opportunity like, who is Damali? And so when I was finally seen at Evolutionary Leadership, it allowed for me to see myself, right? And so now I'm like, okay, so, all right, so I'm a wife. I don't really know what that means. Like, since I was little, I played with my Barbies and you gotta have Ken, and it's like, why? Why do I need to have Ken? Ken's great. Oh, Ken is fun. Ken is fun. But do I need Ken? And how do I have to show up for Ken? And why do I have to show up for Ken? And is Ken showing up for me? Is Ken showing up for me?
Yes.
So like, how do we
Wow.
How do I look at my life in a way where I am me first, because all of these roles that I play are important, but only if I'm lifted first, right?
Yeah.
Because so often that goes in the back shadow and we're living this and we're like walking the hamster wheel of life and we're not doing this. But if I develop me, then I can show up to these roles differently if I still identify with these roles. And it's okay if once you do the shedding of the limited beliefs and the conditioning, if you don't identify with that, because it is your life. And I, for me, have been so close to the end of my life that the rest of it is going to be very intentional, very careful, with compassion, but it's going to be according to my true authentic values and who I am and what I want, because it's my life.